Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man. Once again, coming to you from parts unknown. I have tried two attempts to talk to everyone tonight and to go over Donald Trump's comments at the UN. What happened with this character, Ryan Routh, who tried to end his own existence with an ink pen? I suggested that they stop using dull ink pens in the future to save us a lot of trouble, but we'll see if they take my advice. Uh, and a great many other things, the Tylenol debacle. But one thing that is all the confetti they're throwing up in the air obfuscates a big story that happened today. A big story. It's in my title. I put deep swamp because UTISL does not like you using state. Okay? They don't like you using state. And I can tell you, I appreciate people's comments, advice, and everything else. But I know that my channel, with the warning, then being taken down for a week, then having this troubles, I'm on the shopping block, okay? And all it takes is somebody on the inside, one blue-haired, skinny-jeaned weirdo to bother me. But anyway, how you doing, Sissy? How you doing, Sherry? Miss Mindersoo? Randy? Nice to see you, Debbie. Rain? Robin? So I sound solid. Anne's here. Much better, she said. Sherry said much better. Sounds good. Debbie said much better. Well, I hope folks can come in. I'm gonna try to keep this at about an hour, as we spend so much time. Yeah, third time's a charm. But as I was saying in the broadcast, I don't know how much of you got to go through there, but I don't think they've got this platform I'm using flagged. But I can't put up examples, pictures, videos, historical videos, anything. My talking head. But the last video I did with a talking head had the most views, the most thumbs ups, and the most viewer engagement. So Elva, nice to see you. Pappy, nice to see you. All right. So we got people coming back in. The story about what they did to Trump at the UN is bigger than most people can imagine. That was a purposeful attempt to cause potential harm with a sudden stop of that elevator. Trump said it in one of his posts. He and Melania could have fell. I will get a clip of Fidel Castro when he was almost the same age as Donald Trump, missed a step and careened across a concrete stage. And that was the beginning of his end, Fidel Castro. So a very simple event and a fall. But at his age, he suffered a broken arm and was hospitalized, went from healthy, active, never recovered. That's just one example. But beyond that, the Secret Service had foiled a plan to black out the UN speech entirely, to shut down the internet around New York and possibly other places, and it's not even being talked about in the news. Did you all hear about that event? I have got so much stuff. I was going to focus on that after going through many other things with you all about Comey, about Letitia James, about Jimmy Kimmel, about Antifa, about this assassin that struck at the ICE office There's so much going on, and a lot of it is horrific, like the so-called sniper today. The sabotage of Trump's speech and all the other, but they're not talking about these 300 cell phones, multiple SIM cards that were a network created to disrupt a major blackout in New York City and beyond. It was called an imminent threat. An imminent threat by the U.S. Secret Service was foiled. And they considered an attack on the world leaders because it was designed to disrupt the UN, primarily, is what they suspect. But that wasn't a threat to the world leaders so much. It was an attempt to silence Donald J. Trump. Justin, how are you? Tank made it back. Darla's here. Elva's here. All right. So, are we going to get more news on that? Or is it just going to fade away? Who cares about Jimmy Kimmel? I wish I could show you all a meme the left put up. They're malignant. These people are malignant. They're making fun of Bobby Kennedy's supposedly having worms in his brain and popping Tylenol. Tom Homan is going to sue. Word on the street is now. Well, it'll be verified when he actually does it. NBC or an MSNBC for their misrepresentations. Brush, how you doing? Now we're cooking with gas. That's right. I played at the beginning of my video earlier tonight. Trump had the Marines this evening in the dark of night. Gary's here. Ha ha ha. Did you all notice the video at the beginning of my earlier broadcast? The Marines were doing what's called a silent drill. Marines silent drill platoon performed on the south lawn of the White House. And after that performance, Trump gave them a tour of the Oval Office. I thought that was a signal. I thought that was a signal. I don't know how long it's been planned. Why would they do it at night when it's dark? A unadvertised event with the U.S. Marines. And we've been told many times that the Marines are the president's own. The president's own. And military intelligence is based out of Quantico Marine Base. Anyway, a myriad of things going on. I also mentioned during my first broadcast that I knew how to fix the problems at the UN was have the Army Corps engineers go in that building from top to bottom. Clean it out. Clean out the UN, put it in Greenland as their new base. Or if they don't want to deal with us anymore, they go to another country. Goodbye. And because they'll always be coming back to us for money anyway. And also to put a detention facility about 3 times the sizes of SABOTAGE at Greenland. But I don't feel that the UN building is safe. And it justifiably so to think that it's an unsafe place for our president to go. Trump was plump and plain in his unhappiness with what happened. He wrote a letter that he's sending a copy to the UN secretary. I'm sending a copy of this letter to the Secretary General, and I demand an immediate investigation. No wonder the United Nations hadn't been able to do the job they were put in existence to do. President Donald J. Trump. I have to make sure I don't fall out of my studio while I'm talking. A real disgrace took place at the United Nations yesterday. Not 1, not 2, but 3 very sinister events. First, the escalator going up to the main speaking floor came to a screeching halt. It stopped on a dime. It is amazing that Melania and I didn't fall forward onto the sharp edges of these steel steps face first. I'm checking to make sure I don't fall out of the studio. It was only that we were each holding on to the handrail tightly, or it would have been a disaster. This was absolutely sabotage, as noted by a day earlier's post in the London Times that said UN workers joked about turning off an escalator. So there was a published report the day before that they were going to do something with an escalator. Was it a joke, or were they instructed? Remember the Castro fall that changed his regime. Anything to drive down Trump's image, but more importantly, they would hurt him. They would hurt him. The people that did it should be arrested. Then, as I stood before a television crowd of millions of people all over the world and important leaders in the hall, my teleprompter didn't work. It was stone cold dark. I immediately thought to myself, wow, first the escalator event and now the teleprompter. What kind of place is this? I'm going to interject that commentators on Midas Trash Network were immediately putting out comments saying that it was one of Trump's security individuals who hit the emergency stop button, made up out of whole cloth, in my opinion. But where did they get that information? No one else is reporting it. Where do you get this type of unified propaganda, huh? Midas Trash. And they also said that the Trump administration was responsible for bringing their own teleprompter equipment. These were people commenting on Midas Trash Pail Network. So everybody that has a speech has got to lug in huge screens, speakers, wires. The president of Paraguay, Cameroon, Haiti, remember him taking a big drink out of a pitcher of water instead of putting it in a glass and drinking it like a civilized person, slobbering water all over the place? Andrew Branca pointed out that of the 160 or so, 70 countries that were there, maybe 30 of them are we would consider civilized. The remainder, 140 some countries, they're third world. Third world Shiite holes, okay? But anyway, no, it's disingenuous. It's dishonest to say the White House is responsible for the teleprompter, telecommunications equipment inside the UN. But somebody helped them prepare those talking points. Trump went on to say, I then proceeded to make a speech that got fantastic reviews. Yes, it should. Maybe they appreciated the fact that very few people could have done what I did. And third, after making that speech, I was told that the sound was completely off in the auditorium where the speech was made. That the world leaders, unless they use the interpreter's earpieces, couldn't hear a thing. The first person I saw at the conclusion of the speech was Melania, who was sitting right up front. I said, how did I do? And she said, I couldn't hear a word you said. This wasn't a coincidence. This was triple sabotage at the UN. There it is in writing from Trump's office. This is triple sabotage at the UN. And I 100% agree. That's why I'm saying I don't trust the UN. I don't trust that building. God knows what kind of security he has in there. It's probably the most dangerous place in the world for the president of the United States to be, because the people we're up against don't give a damn who else gets hurt, but they're getting to the point where they've got to do something about Trump. They are at their most dangerous point right now. Yeah, it was fire rain, but not to the people that needed to hear it, the people in the audience. Did anybody say we can't hear it? Did anybody try to help? No. I think there was heads up. Don't worry about Trump, what he's got to say. He's not going to be around. You're not going to be able to hear it. Don't worry about it. It's not important. Like Maria Abramovich, the so-called ambassador to Ukraine during Trump's first term, was telling world leaders, don't pay attention to Trump. He's not going to be around. So he finishes up by saying they ought to be ashamed of themselves. I'm sending a copy of this letter to the Secretary General, and I demand an immediate investigation. No wonder the United Nations hadn't been able to do the job they were put in existence to do. All security tapes at the escalator should be saved, especially the emergency stop button. The Secret Service is involved. Thank you for your attention to this matter. How much you want to bet the same people involved with all three of these events were involved with what the Secret Service broke up as far as a telecommunications blackout that was planned, and is not getting hardly any media coverage. How do you think the city of New York would have handled a total media internet blackout yesterday? What do you think that would have done to commerce? What do you think that would have done to people's sense of safety? Would there have been panic? Such a short time we've had these phones, and people would freak out if their internet was shut down. This was a major threat to our psychological security for the people in New York, and who knows where else, for the message Trump was trying to put out at the UN, for our economy, not only in New York, but surrounding states. And it would have rippled out across the nation. But it's not even being reported on. This character, Ryan Routh, got convicted. He's facing life in jail, prison, penitentiary. Who's he tied up with? Are they going to find out? He needs to go to Gitmo, maybe. He's been to Ukraine. He's been to Turkey. He tried to end his own life. Trump put out a statement on it. Congratulations to Attorney Pam Bondi, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and the entire DOJ team on the conviction in Florida of the person who attempted an assassination on my life. The trial was meticulously handled, and I would like to thank the judge and jury for their time, professionalism, and patience. This was an evil man with evil intention, and they caught him. Are they going to catch more people? That's what I want to know. Wouldn't it be nice if they did put something down about Comey was tied into this? I would also like to thank the Secret Service, Department of Florida law enforcement, and the wonderful person who spotted him running out of the site of the crime, running from the site of the crime, and acted by following him and getting all the information on card type, license plate to the sheriff's office immediately, which led to his arrest and conviction. What an incredible instinct and foresight this person had. A very big moment for justice in America. Trump's already prepared us for a government shutdown. Can you imagine if they would have shut down the internet in New York, if they could have made Trump fall on his face? They could have prevented his speech from being broadcast around the world. All the tumult that would be going on after that if they were successful. And then the U.S. government shuts down. Do you know what kind of state they could have got especially these smooth-brained lunatics that are popping Tylenol like it's going out of style. I mean, we would get through it psychologically just fine because we know what the hell is going on. But it's these maniacs, these malcontents, miscreants, and misfits that, hi, Graybeard, that have surged in numbers. I'm just reading some of the chats. That's right, Linda. Generational boomers would survive just fine. But you look at the, we would have had a definite issue if Trump had or Melania had gotten hurt, physically injured. The fact of the matter is Trump is elderly. 78, 79 years old. A fall is usually the beginning of the end. Not for a man like Trump, but for the average person. And they were shooting for that. Along with a major telecommunications shutdown. Now, Trump put out a big truth about the impending government shutdown. They say Chuck Schumer is begging Trump for a meeting because Trump told him to get lost. Also, he's using the same strategy with Putin and Zelensky, both. They're saying Trump's had a change of heart. He's going to let Zelensky win back all the territory that they had in 1991. There are people reporting that nonsense. If you listen to Trump, what Trump said was, good luck. We're going to keep helping you with weapons because, like he said in the past, we're making money off of it. Europe has got to step up with paying for this stuff, and nobody will listen to me, and it's a waste of my time. So to Putin and Zelensky, good luck. That isn't at all Trump getting behind Zelensky to get 1991 borders back. That's just what he said it means. Good luck. And it'll get to that point, like I said many times in my past broadcasts, like my father used to say, let that dog come to you. And that's watch what happens. I think Putin's going to turn up the temperature, and Ukraine and Europe are going to get a black eye, and then Trump's going to step in. This business with the budget and the government shutdown is the same thing. The Democrats are unserious. They're disingenuous. They're making demands that are ridiculous. So Trump said, well, we're just going to have to get ready for a shutdown now, aren't we? I played the video where he said that. And he said, all these programs that are still being financed, that are pet programs of the Democrats, the money will get shut off. Talk about a brilliant move. Every time he shuts off funding, they sue him in court. Now they're making these crazy demands and saying they'll shut down the government. Well, guess what? They're the ones cutting off the money. Trump doesn't have to go through court and go through all this crap. Reagan shut down the government, I don't know how many times, for extended periods, over a month in one situation. I had the numbers a long time ago. And nobody even knew that it was going, nobody cared. Because the military's getting paid for, Social Security checks are coming in. You just had millions of federal workers sitting on their rear ends at home. But they do that now anyway. They didn't do it back in the 80s, but they're doing it now anyway. So, but something does happen. Checks don't go out to pet projects that the Democrats thrive on. So Trump wrote this after reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open. I have decided that no meeting with them, with their congressional leaders, could possibly be productive. They are threatening to shut down the government of the United States unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue free health care for illegal aliens, a monumental cost. Let me check my, illegal aliens, we know, are their voter base, okay? I'm just making sure I'm not dropping out of the studio. Force taxpayers to fund transgender surgery for minors. Have dead people on Medicaid rolls. Allow illegal alien criminals to steal billions of dollars in American taxpayer benefits. Try to force our country to again open our borders to criminals and to the world. Allow men to play in women's sports and essentially create transgender operations for everybody. These radical left views and policies that allowed me to win the presidential election, including all 7 swing states and the popular vote in a historic landslide. Again, let me make sure I am not dropping off in my studio. And the fact that we have to read this on Truth Social rather than the major networks communicating to the American people what the president is saying shows you right there. That's some of them need to lose their licenses. They're not reporting the news. They're not reporting actual events. There are consequences to losing elections, but based on their letter to me, the Democrats haven't figured that out yet. They're trying to eliminate the popular $50 billion Rural and Vulnerable Hospital Fund, which was passed with only Republican votes, and proudly signed into law by me. The Democrats in Congress seem to have totally lost their way. They obviously have no idea what it makes to put America first or to make America great again. All congressional Democrats want to do is enact radical left-wing policies that nobody voted for. And what are those policies? Wait a minute, let me make sure I'm... All right, Elvis said I got 5 by 5. What are those policies? High taxes, open borders, no consequences for violent criminals, men and women's sports, taxpayer-funded transgender surgery, and much more. Few people voted for what they represent, which would lead to the destruction of America. And instead, people voted for common sense. That's what the Republicans and your president, Donald J. Trump, stand for. I look forward to meeting with them if they get serious about the future of our nation. We must keep the government open and legislate like true patriots rather than hold American citizens hostage, knowing that they want knowing that they want our now thriving country closed. So they're going to shut down the government for transgender surgery and illegal health care insurance and housing. Just that simple sentence right there, they lose. I'll be happy to meet with them if they agree to the principles in this letter. They must do their job. Otherwise, it will just be another long and brutal slog through their radicalized quicksand. To the leaders of the Democrat Party, the ball is in your court. I look forward to meeting you when you become realistic about the things our country stands for. Do the right thing. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Ha 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 ha. Hi, Yvonne. How you doing? Yeah, Schumer, shut it down, Debbie said. Andy, nice to meet you. Who is that? Oh, somebody wants me to run for president. Isn't that something? Ha ha ha. Oh, they take me out in a flash. Let's see. So, yeah. Wow. Man, that is a long truth. But anyway. I'm just going through stuff here. I got to jump from screen to screen, and you all don't hear me talking because I'm cogitating and going to another item. So I have to kind of juggle to make sure I don't get kicked out of the studio. They'll never get me off the mountain, Rain. Ha 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 ha. But anyway. So the big thing that everybody's going to be waiting for is, it's the Comey indictment. Comey and Letitia James indictment. That's what everybody's focused on. I don't think that that's what Trump wants us focused on. I think it's a red herring thrown out there. Just don't get your hopes up for it. If it doesn't happen, don't be disappointed or angry at Pam Bondi. Because like I said, indicting Comey for lying to Congress, big flipping deal. He's done things that should normally get you 20 to life or worse, much less lying to Congress. That's the least of his problems. So why would they put that out there? He was involved in the Steele dossier. He menaced Donald Trump. He tried to, using their terms, bully Donald Trump and got his AWS fired. Yeah, that's right, Roland. Look over there, not here. And while they put that out as a big story at the end of the evening, James Comey might get indicted for lying to Congress. So what? So what? They held Eric Holder in contempt of Congress, and not a damn thing happened. They censured Adam Schiff. Big deal. Nothing happened. Ha ha ha. That would be good, Gary. Yeah. Yeah, somebody asked me about that. My plumber intel asked me, what's going on with Hillary? She was on giving a little interview. Maybe she's the one. Because who is in the indictments and what's going on with the indictments are supposed to be secret in a grand jury. I would like to see some of these judges that were involved. I'm going to just rehash it real quick because it's facts of the matter. The judge that okayed the warrant on Mar-a-Lago was overseeing Trump's lawsuit against Hillary Clinton et al., all her cronies. The judge overseeing that magistrate judge is named Judge Middleton. He's been there since the Bush-Gore debacle. And the Supreme Court had to tell him to order a stop to the pregnant Chad recounts. That's how far back this Middleton character goes. Middleton assigned this magistrate judge to Mar-a-Lago, took over the case from the magistrate judge, and threw out Trump's lawsuit against Hillary Clinton et al. Then this Judge Middleton started fining, which we haven't heard anything about it. He was fining ridiculous amounts of money on Trump's attorneys. And it was all over the media. Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, Trump's attorney so-and-so has to fined for contempt of court, or whatever the judge fined him for bad practices or whatever. Whatever happened? Do you think they had to pay those tens of thousands of dollars in fines and take that kind of a bruise to their professionalism, or did it just get tamped down, quieted down? I don't think they had to pay that shit stuff. And Judge Middleton set Trump up in my book. He was the first one to start setting up Trump. Then you got Engoron. Then you got Kaplan, who is the one who paved the way for people to call Trump a grapist, right? And then you got Mercan, who paved the way to have all these bots, talking heads, paid shills to call Trump a felon. Neck and neck. Who's the biggest danger? Is these judges and the media. They're neck and neck on who's the worst. Now, as far as who's going to get arrested or removed from their office, as far as governors, mayors, state officials, I'll put it that way, neck and neck is Pritzker or Newsom. Which one do you think is going to go first with handcuffs? Pritzker or Newsom? Because unless I'm missing something, they're the only ones who have been actively inciting. Gavin Newsom, one of his latest comments after he signed that stupid mask law, so-called law, was, "What are you afraid of, ICE? Why you got to hide your faces? What are you afraid of?" Within 24 to 48 hours after he said that, the ICE facility gets shot up. Calling Trump a dictator. Gavin Newsom, I'm convinced there's not going to be an election in 2028. He's going to take over, creating this sense of urgency in this moment. And then you have 29-year-old knuckleheads like this bonehead, John, whatever his name is, I've got it. But they found his social media. He's posing with a hammer and sickle, communist symbolism. And it goes back to what I said. 29 years old. How old was he when Obama went into office? 10. When did Obama go in office? 2000. He won election 2006, right? No, wait a minute. Let me get it right. 16, 12, 18. Oh, wait. So Obama went in office. This guy is 29. How old was he when Obama went in office? We got multi-generations that have gone through the Mike Shell and Barack Hussein Obama's warped education system. And they incite these people to violence. So anyway, it could make, I watched what Hillary was yapping about. What did she say? We've all got to we've all got to watch what we say. And, when they're in trouble, it's, oh, well, we all have to behave. We're all to blame, we really need to tone it down. Maybe it'll be both of them. Maybe it'll be Comey and Clinton. But they have a thing called superseding indictments. They indict him for something small, like a line of Congress. And then they can follow it up with the bigger stuff. So it may very well be that the White Hats are putting it out there just to shake the bushes and see who steps in it. The calls are being monitored. I think the intelligence services have already been taken over by military intelligence. And there's no communications they have that aren't being monitored. "12 years old, no 8, right, Graybeard." And that's what did he see when he was a 12-year-old? All these people welcoming Obama like a messiah. The country has finally healed the wounds of racism and everything he does. And Obama getting up and saying it's settled science. There is climate change and we've got to do something about it. And that's the other thing Trump brought up, that people who are making billions of dollars don't want to hear. The climate change is a damn hoax. And he played it out exactly like the facts of the matter are. He laid it right out for everybody to hear. It's a waste of billions of dollars. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Bringing their so-called messiah. Well, another temple. Uh, my dad told me, you know what's going to hit the fan if anything happens to the dome of the rock, to the golden dome, the whatever you want to call it, which is the mosque in place today where the temple used to be. If anything happens to that, it's Katie bar the door. And I don't think, anything like that's going to happen. Uh, Let me ask the chat a question about that. Where the Dome of the Rock is right now is the site of it's above the Wailing Wall. It's where the temple was, right? Am I right or wrong? People who are up keep up with that. Anybody know? My understanding was they say there were the center of the mosque is where the last hoof print struck the ground, lifting the winged horse into heaven with Muhammad on the horse. That's the center. Isn't that what you all heard? And it also happens to be where the temple was, right? Graybeards say they say it, but I don't believe it was. Miss Minister says in Jerusalem. Yeah, it's in Jerusalem, but Jerusalem is a big place compared to the size of a temple or mosque. Temple Mount. Where was the first temple? The one we're talking about right now is Solomon's temple, correct? I concur, Roland, but that's the story. That's the story that's told. That's Solomon's temple, right? The second temple. No, I'm sorry. The second temple came after Solomon's was destroyed. Solomon's was the first temple, and that was destroyed. Rain says no. No what? No. Rain said no, and then no. Okay, no. It's kind of late. I burned out. This is my third attempt at broadcasting. But anyway, there were two temples, right? Correct? Solomon's the second. According to Rain. Well, there are two temples. No, there were two temples in Jerusalem. The second temple was destroyed in 70 AD. 70 AD by the Romans. The first one was destroyed by the Babylonians. And I believe it was built after the Maccabees. By the Maccabees. They were fed up, and they went Old Testament. No, David didn't. David didn't. David came after Saul. Saul was the first king. And they weren't in the wilderness with Saul and David, and they had a temple. Well, because Gary, because we're all supposed to be what's the word? Gentiles are supposed to be goyim. Well, that's what I was asking, Susan. I'm reading your comment here. The third temple will be built on top of 1 and 2, same spot. I don't think the second temple was built in the same spot. I think it's about a quarter mile or eighth of a mile difference in where the first temple was. Solomon kept the one up and built his own, and it was magnificent. And had these big bronze pillars, and the walls were lined with gold. But they had a tabernacle. I'm going to use y'all's words. I'm reading in the chats. And he kept that up and then built a new place for the holiest of holies. So what I'm saying is, if they did a third temple and did it in the first spot, it's something to look up, that's for sure. But anyway, folks, well, I'm sorry I had an abbreviated broadcast, and I'm sorry my videos didn't play, and I'm really sorry that it took all that time to collect all those videos that I wanted to talk about, because Trump, he was supposed to have 15 minutes. They said he was allocated 15 minutes, but he took almost an hour. Well, so what? He could have took 2 hours for all I give it a hoot, and you all sit there, supposed to sit there and shut up and listen. But he was thwarted for the immediate audience, but he wasn't thwarted for the millions around the world. And especially since they tried to sabotage him, like what was said earlier in the chats, it's going to come back to bite them, because people are going to want to hear it. And remember, his first address to the UN was simultaneously Nancy Pelosi was walking ceremoniously the first impeachment papers over to the Senate. You all recall that? The Jewish exile built the second temple, right? When the Babylonian king let them come back, they built the second temple after the Babylonian king let them come back. And then the Romans destroyed that temple in 70 AD, the Second Jewish Revolt. So anyway, it's something to check out, because what I'm saying is, well, you know, one of the strategies that is being pointed out is that a lot of Muslims are buying churches and converting them to mosques. You know, that can get turned around. Where mosques can be turned into churches. It all depends on what happens with people's hearts and minds. They just became the bank. Well, they became the mafia, according according to some people. The Romans became the mafia, which is what these international governments, principalities are based on, anyways. Mafiastic tactics, usury tax rates, confiscatory policies. But anyway, folks, well, I'll be broadcasting tomorrow, and let's hope I'm going to keep some of these videos that I got today, because it's always a good time to listen and analyze a little bit what Trump talked about, and whatever else happens. Let's all hope that there's no more lives lost to these people, these dysphoric, radicalized individuals. So keep our fingers crossed there. And what was the meaning of Trump having the Marines do their silent drill this evening in the dark of night underneath one of the new flags on the South Lawn, after what he himself said were 3 attempts at sabotage? People need to be arrested and go to jail. So let's see what happens from that. And we might hear more details about who was behind this attempted internet blackout of our financial center of our country, and you might as well say the world, New York City. So anyway, folks, thank you once again for spending your precious time with me and putting up with the failed broadcasts I put up earlier. I want to thank Gary and Mike and Bev and Norm for helping out this week on Buy Me a Coffee. I do appreciate it so much. And I will be seeing you tomorrow, and hopefully things will be better. I will try to have a less provocative thumbnail picture and title, and maybe that will let me slip under the radar and have a decent broadcast. We shall see. You all have a great night. I'll be seeing you soon. This is Mountain Man, over and out.